Well, hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Tommy Hensel, and I am the director of the Fine and Performing Arts Center at Moraine Valley Community College. We're located just outside of Chicago in a town called Palos Hills in the southwest suburbs of Chicago. Our Performing Arts Center, like most in the country, well, all in the country, has been closed for a while, as you all know. So we were trying to figure out a way that we could first stay in touch with all of our friends and patrons and clients and everybody else who's out there, but also, how could we get some content out there that you would find interesting? Now, we don't have access to the theater, so we can't do a live stream of performance right now, but it occurred to me that we've had some amazing performers on our stage in the past several years, and why not give some of them a call and see would they be willing to hop online and join us. So I'm very excited about this whole series. We've done several so far, and I've got them scheduled right now, at least through the end of July, and we're going to keep on trucking forward. So I'm excited to be able to share with you these amazing performers. And just in full disclosure, I'm choosing people that not only are amazing and talented and popular with our audiences, but also are personal friends of mine. So for me, this is kind of like having a conversation with a good friend. So tonight, I'm very excited to have one of my best friends in the industry. A couple of years ago, we celebrated a 25th anniversary of our Performing Arts Center. And we did a lot of special events through the year, but I was trying to figure out how do I sort of end with a bang. And so we closed our 25th anniversary season with an amazing performance by MOJO and the Bayou Gypsies. So let's welcome to the broadcast studio, my good friend, Mr. MOJO.
Hey, Tommy, I'm so glad you couldn't find any of your talented friends so I could be here tonight.
There you go. Well, after everybody said no, I just had to go to the beat list, And here we are. I'm watching comments as we're talking, and our mutual friend Jody Beach says hello. So,
hi, Jody.
And my friend Valerie Vestal Reinking has been a consistent viewer every week, so she's on. So we got two people at least. Actually, we got way more. I'm watching them on the screen. So I'm excited, MOJO, to be able to just sit and have a conversation with you because we've known each other for a long time. But as I said to you earlier today, sometimes there's questions that I ask that I'm like, wow, I never thought to ask that question. And I know that during the course of our broadcast, you've got a couple of video clips you're going to show us. I'm excited by that.
Yeah. Nothing off limits until I decide they're off limits.
There you go. So I'm calling in from my home in Berwyn, Illinois, which is just outside of Chicago. Where are you today?
I'm in Breaux Bridge, Louisiana. Pombro. The famous cowboy poet, Dr. Baxter Black, is a friend of mine, and he dedicated one of his chapters in one of his books to Breaux Bridge. He said, Breaux Bridge, Louisiana is America's favorite foreign country.
So where is Breaux Bridge in the state? Because I'm not quite sure exactly where it is geographically.
You draw a straight line between New Orleans and Houston, and we're 1/3 of the way.
Oh, okay. All right.
We're
So
100 miles from New Orleans and 200 miles from Houston.
Yeah, so out in the bayous.
Out in the bayou, yeah. I live actually 1 mile from the largest swamp in America, the Henderson Swamp, the Chapala Basin. Yeah.
Now, is that the swamp you drive through when you're on I-10?
Yes, that's the 19-mile bridge across the Chapala Basin in the Henderson Swamp. It's the longest bridge of its kind.
Yeah. I've driven it many times in my life, so I know. For the people who don't know, I grew up in South Carolina, so I spent a lot of time in the South, and I went to Florida State as an undergrad, so I was in Tallahassee. So I went to New Orleans a lot, and I have family in Houston, so yeah.
See, I didn't know you went to Florida State. There's a building named after my cousin there.
Oh, what building?
I'll tell you after.
Okay, no worries, no worries. Yeah, that's where I got my music degree.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Way back in the day. We won't go in there. So as we start tonight, one of the things I always like to ask people is, obviously you've got a really successful long-term career, but way back at the beginning when you were a kid, like what was your first draw to music? Did you always know you wanted to be a performer, or were you studying to be something else and this just happened?
Well, it's this whole story is actually told in the movie about my life that came out last year. But it all began in the days when television was very young. We had a traditional American family. Every Saturday we would all show up. The whole family would show up at my auntie's house. My auntie Hilda, who was a fabulous cook, and there might be 5 people there. There might be 50 people there. You never knew. And at the end of the meal, in the evening, the kids would entertain. So when I was about 3 years old, it was my turn. And Mama said, well, next week you're gonna entertain. What do you want to do? And I said, I want to be Elvis Presley sing "You Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog." And she said, okay. So through the week we got, I had a little sport coat, I had a little white shirt, I had a bow tie, I had saddle shoes, but they had to be black and white. They couldn't be brown and white. They had to be black and white like Elvis's shoes. And we got there. It was my turn. I was 3. I think I was 3.5. And I didn't have a guitar. So my auntie's place was built in 1929, and it had those gigantic, tall, full wall cabinets in the kitchen, and the countertops were like 42 inches high. So I went looking for a guitar in her cabinets. I opened the door and I actually crawled inside, and I remember crawling through the cabinet on the floor, and I came across a iron skillet, a round iron skillet with a real long handle. I dragged it out. I remember going clunk, 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 clunk. I pulled it out and flipped it over, and that became my guitar. And then I did the performance where I did my best impersonation of Elvis Presley that a 3-year-old could do. Sang "You Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog," just a cappella. And the family went crazy. I remember they laughed, they clapped. It was amazing. And there I was, 3 years old, and that feeling that I felt as I was performing, and at the end when they're all clapping and hooting and hollering, I feel that same feeling every night on the stage with the audience. It's never left me. And I knew right there, that's what I wanted to do.
Wow. That's awesome. It's kind of like, the title song of that musical Applause. When all of the actors are singing this song about the first time they ever went on stage, and suddenly somebody applauded and it was done. They were done. It's like crack at that point. You can't, you have to have it. You have to have it.
Yeah. Well, it's a good setup. I always tell people the real truth was when I was young, I found out people would give me $1 to sing a song.
Okay.
But I was really hooked when I found out they'd give me $5 to stop. So
there you go. So obviously you started performing at a pretty young age. So when did you actually sort of merge into doing it more professionally? When did you start getting paid for it?
I was 11 years old. Okay. When I was 11 years old, we had a little garage band and we're just playing, and a guy in the area, he came by and he said, "You kids are good. I'll give you $150 to play my party Saturday night." Oh. Now, this is 1963. A grown man made about $1. I don't know what grown women made in those days, but a grown man made about $1 an hour. So that meant in 3 hours on a Saturday night, 4 kids are each going to make a man's wage for a week.
Wow.
And that was a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, it bought me a Hawthorne bicycle. I think that was made by Montgomery Wards. The bike's gone. Montgomery Wards is gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're still here.
Yeah, I'm still here.
That's awesome. Yeah, actually, I never really thought about it, but $150 back in 1963 was a
lot of money.
That's a hefty chunk of change. Yeah.
Yeah. I had to work all week. When I was 15, I got my first job in a store, and I had to go all the way into town. We lived 15 miles from the city, 15 miles from town, and I had to go into town to work. And I made $1 an hour in 1967.
Wow.
Yeah.
So where did you grow up? In the town you're in now, or somewhere else?
No, I was a child. I was born up in Minnesota.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and I had been up there. I got my education. I don't know what kind of language I could use here. If I can speak freely, I got the hell out fast.
Yeah, you can say that.
I mean, Minnesota is a beautiful place, but I was never, ever happy with the weather there.
Oh, no.
It was just too cold for too long. And so I got a great education. I split, and I left there 50 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the MOJO and the Bayou Gypsies group obviously was certainly not your first group. You had a lot of other stuff
Oh,
before
yeah.
that. So I mean, so we'll talk about the Bayou Gypsies in a minute. So like, what were some of the other things you did between that 1967 dollar an hour and then when the Bayou Gypsies came to be?
Well, musically, I think I've performed in every genre of Americana. I had a project in everything. I can't think of anything that I missed in Americana through the 70s, let's say. We had a folk group. I was in a soul music group. I was in a rock and roll group. I was in a blues horn band, played urban blues, played Mississippi Delta blues, played country music, played eclectic country music, country rock, psychedelic music. The list just goes on and on. I did musical theater, did liturgical music, did everything. But at the same time, I had to go to school. My daddy never went to school. My daddy came here from another country. And when he was 15 years old, he had his first chance to go to school. So he went to school. They sent him home the first day for being malnourished. So he went to work.
Wow.
Never went to school. But he had a rule that my brothers and myself, we had to have either a graduate or professional education. And that was a requirement for life for us.
Mm-hmm.
Because he used to say, one thing, son, no man can ever take from you is your education. And I couldn't, my mom always said I wasted my education by being in the entertainment business. But I couldn't have succeeded, this is my 56th year in the business. I couldn't have succeeded without a really good education.
Yeah. That's true. I mean, and I guess I was lucky because I went to school for music and then for theater. But my poor mother, she just would shake her head and go, "Oh God, he's going to live at home for the rest of his life and never going to have a job." And I'm sure she's up there somewhere, smiling now because here I am, a bajillion years later. I'm 55 now, so I've been in the industry for 30 plus years, more than that. And I've been making my living for the most part in the industry. So,
Wow. Tommy, everybody listen. Now, Tommy's 55, but when we first met, he was younger than me. Your story about your mama, it's reality. I would not be in this business and successful without my mom and daddy. Mm-hmm. They really supported me. When we were kids, my mama made all my costumes. My daddy had a great big truck, and he used to pick up all the kids and our gear, and he would take us to the gigs, and he'd sleep in the truck till we were done, and then he'd take all the kids home. Otherwise, we couldn't have done it. We were underage. None of us could drive or anything, and he made it possible. But to the day he died, he always used to say to me, "Son, when you're done doing what you're doing, can you get a job?"
Yeah, I heard a little bit of that.
Never got that.
Honestly, I have to say I was really lucky because my parents didn't get it. They really didn't understand it. But my mother would constantly say, "Look, as long as you're happy, that's all that's important." And she really meant that. And my father, he would just sort of smile and shake his head because he had no idea I was like an alien child. But, but he was so supportive. And, he kind of drew the line. He wouldn't come see a show if I wasn't in a starring role. If I was just in the chorus, he wouldn't come. My mother came to every friggin' thing.
Oh, man.
I worked backstage. She would come to a show. But and it's so funny because I remember, it would have been in the early 90s sometime after I graduated, maybe mid 90s. My mother actually went back to school at the University of South Carolina to take a theater class. And I said, "What?" And she said, "I just decided I needed to figure out what the heck you're doing for a living. So I decided to take a theater."
That's really funny.
I was like, "Okay." And she was like, here she was like 70 years old in this class with a bunch of 20-year-old kids. But she was like, they're like, favorite other students. So it's kind of a weird thing.
We're really blessed to have good parents like that. There's a funny story. Mama always said I was wasting my education. And, our business is kind of crazy. People who've seen MOJO and the Bayou Gypsies over the last 35 years, they know we're pretty wild. I mean, even though we're 35 years older than we were before, we still jump around pretty good. My auntie in Houston, my auntie Hilda, a lot of my fans know about her because she made it to 99 years of age in Houston. She just passed last year, but she always wanted me to be on the Tonight Show. When Johnny Carson was alive, he used to say, you should be on the Tonight Show. You should be on the Tonight Show. I said, well, Hilda, it's just not our market. You know, they're not going to have a show. Well, you can jump around like a monkey better than anybody else he has on that
show. Hey, you know, it's entertaining. It's entertaining.
Oh, yeah, it's entertaining. It's really entertaining.
So I know that this is your 35th anniversary of MOJO and the Bayou Gypsies, right?
Right.
So where did that group come from? I mean, so how did that come to be?
Well, it came to be kind of a complex story, but in 1985 is when I started it. And it began as a kind of a family band. My daughters and I would perform at family gatherings and at parties and things like that. They're very talented musicians. And so we did acoustic guitar and fiddle and sometimes some percussion. And when my youngest was about 3 or 4, she would play on the keyboards and stuff like that. And it started to expand. We became an acoustic trio playing Americana, Celtic music, Cajun music, Zydeco music. And then I got the idea, we were playing for a lot of parties in Louisiana, and I decided, wait a minute, now this could be something we could share with 1,000 people on stage every night. And it's something they would really love and never get to experience unless they came 2,000 miles to come here. So that started as an acoustic trio, a bass, fiddle, and guitar, and vocals. And then we expanded it, and by '89, we had a full 5 or 6 piece, 7 piece. I can't even remember how many pieces we had in those days. We were a full-blown band, electrified in the Zydeco tradition. And that's when we really moved more to Zydeco. So in the late 80s, early 90s is when we really kicked it off big. We made it in 1994. We had made it to the #1 nightclub in the United States. Because in those days, I just thought you played nightclubs if you wanted to have a career. Mm-hmm. And we made it to the #1 nightclub. It's in Chicago. It's still in business, but it shall remain nameless because the rest of the story was at the end of the night, even though we had a packed house, it was maniacally fun. They tried to cheat me out of my money. At the end of the night, they didn't want to pay. You know, they tried to short me, and I left with my money. But I remember going in the dressing room. The dressing room was down in like a basement catacomb. It was a stone basement, limestone or something. I can't remember what. But I walked in there and I said, "Hey, y'all, this is the last time we ever play in a nightclub. We will never play in a nightclub again. Mm-hmm. And the only exception I make is if it's for a benefit." So from that, we had started doing corporate events, and that was really lucrative.
Yeah.
And that ended in 2001 with 9/11. Mm-hmm. And then I lost the biggest contract I ever had on 9/11. We had booked a series with a series of post-game shows at RFK Stadium for the Washington Redskins. Mm-hmm. And we did it with Popeyes Corporation. Popeyes was going to do the food. We were going to do the music. Mm-hmm. After all the home games, they're going to put up a tent, keep 45,000 people there so they could trickle out of the stadium. There was gridlock. They didn't know how to get the traffic out of the stadium in those days.
Yeah.
So our job would have been to entertain after every show, after every game at home with Popeyes food and MOJO's music. And the first show was, I think it was September 13th.
Yeah.
2001. Well, it didn't happen. It didn't happen. And we switched immediately to performing arts. And when I first got in the performing arts field, people said, it'll take you 3 years to get anywhere. Man, we sold a full season of shows the first time I ever went anywhere.
Of course you did.
There's just nothing like us, you know. Yeah. There's probably a law against something like us.
So I know you've got a couple of video clips that you might be able to show us. You
Yeah.
have a video clip of you at our theater, right?
Yes. Would you like to see that?
Yeah, let's look at that one. And then I have a couple of questions for you about
Sure.
about the music that you play.
Absolutely. Let's take this clip. I'm going to share this clip. This is shot at Tommy's Theater, at the Dorothy Maker Theater. And it's about 4 minutes long, but you'll see what happens to an audience when Mojo's in town.
And let me know when you want me to click on it.
Click on it. Let me know.
All right, good.
Here we go.
There we are. Awesome, Mojo.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
That was a lot of fun. What I loved about it was that we had those VIP seats on the stage, so
Right.
people had a chance to actually get up and dance and be on the stage, which I think was awesome. So,
196
unshare that.
It's called Chaz.
Hang on.
Capital rises from land that once belonged to an
whoops,
indigenous, but now nearly
that's not me.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. Woo! There was like a ghost in the machine here.
I didn't realize you have to stop share and stop the feed.
So I have a question because
Yes.
I think a lot of people might not know the answer to this. What is Zydeco music?
Zydeco is music from Southwest Louisiana. It's a music of the Creole people, French-speaking people of color here in Southwest Louisiana. It began out of the melting pot of Southwest Louisiana, Cajun and Creole culture. Creoles played music very similar to Cajun music. In the old days, the Creole music was primarily accordion and some fiddle. They added a little bit of rhythm. They added the frottoir, the rub board. Then they added guitar. They added drums. They added bass, and it became modern Zydeco. Zydeco is a extension of a word. The music was from the house dances, and the Creoles had a saying. Now, this is my interpretation based on what I've learned in life, okay?
Okay.
It is supported by academic research, but academicians have all different opinions on such things.
Of course they
do. I'm a historian, so I did the effort. I made the work. And a common phrase in the Creole community back in the 40s when the music became popular was "Como se va le Zydeco?" which means how you snap beans. And they used to say, "Les Zydeco sont pas salés." The snap beans have no salt. And that was a greeting, and you would laugh, because we didn't need money to grow the beans, but we needed money to buy salt.
Mm-hmm.
So les Zydeco sont pas salés. The snap beans have no salt. Well, pretty soon, the music was the music at the house dance. They started calling the house dance the Zydeco because people would say that when they'd go, they called it the Zydeco. Uh-huh. The music at the Zydeco became the Zydeco music. And the real master, really the only person who played real Zydeco music was Mr. Clifton Chenier, who invented the genre, coined the term, created the rhythms and everything. It really is a pure American music. So it was the Creole interpretation with accordion, rub board, drums, and a few other instruments over time, recreating American music for the house dances. So you had blues, you had rock and roll, you had swing, you had hillbilly music in there, you had big band stuff thrown in there. It was just an interpretation and an expression from the Creole community, and it became what is Zydeco today. And over time, the nouveau Zydeco, the new Zydeco, as it grows, incorporates more and more of the new genres of American music.
Awesome, because that's a question I have never asked, and even in my music history studies as a music major, we never really talked about those genres of music.
Right.
There was so much focus on things pre-World War II, essentially.
Right.
That the more modern genres weren't really talked about.
Right.
That's cool.
Yeah,
so
the roots are from the 20s, and Mr. Clifton really perfected the style that became Zydeco in the late 40s, early 50s. In fact, here's a story for the Chicago people in your area. For those of you that don't know, listening throughout the world, Tommy's Theater is in the greater Chicago area. Famous Chicago blues man was Lonnie Brooks.
Yeah.
And Lonnie was one of my best friends. We spoke together every Christmas Day by telephone for almost 20 years.
Uh-huh.
He was just one of my dearest friends, and he's originally from Dubuisson, Louisiana. And in early 50s, I can't remember what the date was exactly, Lonnie started his career. He was the first one to play guitar with Clifton and Cleveland Chenier. And Lonnie used to, Lonnie was a fabulous storyteller. Most people in Chicago know who Lonnie was, and they see videos of him and they have his records. But to know that man was a real gift from above. He was just so fabulous, wonderful storyteller. So he told me the first time he told me the story, he said, I was a kid and I played guitar. And he said, that old man, Clifton, he hired me to play with him. And that first night, he said, man, we're playing 3 hours, 4 hours. It's getting to 5 hours. He said, man, my fingers were bleeding. I couldn't play anymore. My fingers were bleeding. And I stopped. My fingers were bleeding, and I was shaking my hand. He said, Clifton turned around and said, boy, I hire you to play. Now play.
Well, okay.
Yeah. That was a wonderful story. Yeah.
Actually, early in my career, God, this would have been way back pre 9/11, I guess. I did present Lonnie at another theater on the East Coast, so I had a chance to meet him. I didn't really have a chance to hang out with him though. And I know his sons, so I've worked with them. So I do have a question that popped up from the feed, so I'm putting it on the bottom of the screen.
Yes. The question is a Cajun accordion like a concertina? The answer is no. Other than that, there are reed instruments, Chinese-based reed instruments. The Cajun accordion is based on a European instrument that actually was originated in China. It's a reed accordion with 4 blocks of reeds on one side with buttons, so you can play a melody, and 2 sets of reeds, actually 4 sets of reeds, a bass and a chord for the first and the fifth, for the 1 and the 5, on the left-hand side, or the right-hand side if you play it upside down. But in the 1800s, the name coined for it in Europe was melodeon. And it didn't become a Cajun accordion until World War II, when we couldn't get them in America anymore. They came here in the late 1800s. A documentary that I produced called The Mervyn Kahn Legacy was about a French-speaking German Jewish merchant who came to America, wound up in Rayne, Louisiana, opened a store. It was like the first Walmart store. It was a huge complex. Everything you needed to live and die on the prairie is what his slogan was. They had live chickens and they had caskets. So he began importing them. And I remember historically, somebody asked me when I was doing a lecture with the movie one time, they said, well, what kind of music did the German Jewish people play on those accordions? I said, they didn't play them, they sold them. And that's the truth. They sold them in Europe, so he sold them in his store. They became very popular in Southwest Louisiana. And during World War II, all but one of the factories was behind the German lines, the Nazi lines. After those same factories wound up behind Iron Curtain, and there was only one manufacturer that we could get anything from. So they started building and repairing them in Southwest Louisiana. A man named Sidney Brown in Lake Charles was the first to actually make the accordions. And when you do historical documentaries and stuff like that, you learn all kinds of interesting things. And in the process of doing this story, I got to interview Sidney Brown's nephew, who was in his late 80s. And he told me the history of his family. And it turned out the founding father in Cajun country of the Brown family was a French-speaking German Jew. So it was all came together. It was pretty interesting stuff. It's fascinating stuff.
Cool. I had no idea. So is the accordion that you play on stage, is that similar to like the same kind of accordions that you would see in like gypsy music and klezmer music and that kind of stuff? Or
some play an accordion like that. Most of the accordions that you see in world music today are accordions that are piano based. They're piano accordions, like piano keys on one side.
Yeah.
And this is in the button accordion family. I play what's called a single roll melodeon or Cajun accordion. And that's 10 buttons. It's diatonic, which means I can't play a wrong note. That's what I like about it.
Yeah, I love diatonic too.
And the ethnic music that plays button accordions, like the Gaelic and Celtic musics, and the Latino music with a button accordion. The Russians play button accordions, but the one that I play is a single row. It was custom made just for me. It has unique reeds, unique bellows, unique finish, buttons, bling. In fact, when I designed it, I went to Mr. Larry Miller in Iota, Louisiana, who was the master who crafted my accordion for me, and November of 1996. I had that accordion built for me. And I described what I wanted. I want gold, purple, green, Mardi Gras colors, but I don't want it painted. I want it stained so you can see the wood. And I want gold hardware and pearl buttons and flashy. And I'm going to put some rhinestones on it. I said, Mr. Larry, can you make that for me? And he looked at me and he said, I can make it for you, but you're going to get stuck with an ugly accordion like that.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
You get what you ask for, right?
So it's been feeding my family for 23 years.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for the, Gene Ronsky said, there she goes, thanks for the history on that.
You're very welcome, Gene.
And our mutual friend, Jim McDowell, had a little note about Lonnie Brooks.
He said, I did sound once for Lonnie Brooks festival setting, so no sound check, fast changeover. He came on and hands down owned the stage. Very enjoyable moment. Yeah, that was Lonnie. That was Lonnie. Lonnie liked to work on autopilot. He didn't like, he used to tell me, I don't want to think. I don't want to think. I just want to run on autopilot.
Cool. So something that occurred to me that that maybe some people don't know about you is that besides your music performance career, you've done a lot of work in film and television as well. So tell a little bit about that.
Well, you know, I got interested in acting when I was a kid. My brother moved to California in 1956. So every year I spent a month with my brother and his wife and children. He's 21 years older than me. So it was quite an experience when I would go, and they took me to one of the movie sets, one of the movie production companies. I think it was Universal in those days. And I was fascinated by the stunt people and watching the stunts, and then got to talk to the lead stuntman at Universal. I would think I was like 11, maybe 12. And I said, how did you get started to be a stuntman? Did you want to be a stuntman? He said, no. What happened was I fell off of a bar stool and somebody saw me do it. Thought I'd be good in films. So honestly, I got interested in filmmaking probably 25, 30 years ago. We made a film when we were, I think, 15 years old. We made a really great movie that resurfaced about 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Someone found a copy of it. It was called Crime, Filth, and Loitering. And it was 15-year-old kids playing all these characters who were all kinds of criminals and everything. It was hilarious, actually. It was really pretty funny. And so that was the first film I was ever involved in. I acted in that film. And the kid that actually ran the cameras wound up in Hollywood running cameras. He became a filmmaker in Hollywood. But the documentary, I really got involved in executive production of film and documentaries when a friend of mine told me the story of her grandfather. In Lafayette, Louisiana, there's a woman named Lily Con Morrow who ran Lily's for Books. And my children love Lily's store. They used to go and spend 4 or 5, 6 hours in there looking at books, and then they'd buy one and we'd go home when they were small. And I would sit and talk to Miss Lily. And Miss Lily told me the story of her grandfather, who was Mervyn Khan, the man I just told you about. And the story was so fascinating that I said, you know, Miss Lily, if I ever get to make a movie, I'm going to make a movie about your grandfather. And that's what I did. And we were lucky enough to show the movie. She got to see the movie before she passed away. She died a few months later, but she got to come to the premiere.
Cool.
Pretty cool. And after that, I've done some acting in television and movies, which is fun. You know, it's basically sit around and wait, and you make some fabulous, you know, food is good. You're sitting around a long time. You make some fabulous friends. One of my favorite people who we're still in touch with, I did a vampire movie shot in an old plantation house. And the star of the movie was a guy named Massimo. He was 26 or 27. He was on Bravo television. Mm-hmm. He was from Rome, Italy, and he came to America to become a star. And he did. Yeah. And just corresponded with him a couple of weeks ago. I always wondered what happened with the movie, and he told me where the movie was, and I got to see myself in the film. I played a vampire violinist. Okay. It was a vampire movie about vampires and trying, you know, it was like a vampire syndicate, but it was fun. And I was in Bonnie and Clyde, the remake, and I I was in Twilight Breaking Dawn, a few others. But the best part of being in the movies is what happens when you're doing it. You know, it has nothing to do with what winds up on the screen.
Oh yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah.
Awesome. So one of the things that I know that you've been involved with is a television show,
Right.
Set in the bayous. Tell us a little bit about that. I think it's really fascinating.
It's an interesting story. Again, it's a story called, well, it's a reality show that it was originally created for television, but we decided to just distribute small bits until we can get all our legal ducks in a line. It's trademarked now, and we're in a position where we're actually starting to film something. We have a backer who's going to film our first real movie, and it's called Swamp Girls Gone Crazy. Now, see, that's exactly why it's called Swamp Girls Gone Crazy, because when you hear it, you're going to laugh and say, oh, well, what could that be about?
Well, I know what it's about, but you can tell, as if I didn't know, tell me.
Well, yeah, so Swamp Girls Gone Crazy, the title is actually a hook so that people will tune in. Mm-hmm. People think it's salacious. So when we first started, we had a lot of people here in Breaux Bridge who were not receptive. They were very hateful about the whole thing, that we were painting the people in Bayou country in a bad light. But what they failed to recognize was what the show is actually about. When a swamp girl, a child grown, raised on the bayou, hunting, fishing, cooking, very meager, always having slightly less than everything they need. Let's put it that way. Not what they want, but what they need is in short supply. If they have big dreams, people put them down. They say that little swamp girl will never be anything. You know, you say you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, a banker, whatever. So that little swamp girl will never be anything. Well, Swamp Girls Gone Crazy are those crazy women who were bold enough and brave enough to pursue their dreams and wind up successful. Would you like to see a clip?
Yeah, I would.
I'll share a clip. This is the star of our show. Her name is Deanna Welch. She lives right here in Breaux Bridge. And Deanna is a successful, very successful restaurateur, entrepreneur. And she's the star. So I'm going to set this up so we can share it. It's a very short clip.
Okay. Just let me know when you want me to click on it.
Introduces her character. Here it comes, Tommy. Go ahead. Let me know when you're ready.
Whoops, hold on. There we go, ready.
All right, here we go. Swamp Girls Gone Crazy. Uh-oh.
Here we go.
I'm a swamp girl. I love to fish and hunt. I love to be on the bayous and in the swamp. When I was young, I had big dreams. Dreams of being an entrepreneur, owning my own business and being successful. Everyone would say, that little swamp girl is crazy. Well, I am a success and I ain't crazy. I'm extra crazy. I'm proud to be a swamp girl gone crazy.
Was good?
Yeah, that was good.
All right.
All right. Awesome. I'm excited to see it when it gets into production and gets out there.
Yeah, we've got some hilarious episodes. The characters, they're real and they're very funny. They've had interesting lives. And you learn a lot about Bayou country. You learn about alligators and soft shell crab factories and crawfishing, and the list goes on and on. It's really, you even learn about eating squirrel heads.
It's funny because when we were talking about Swamp Girls Gone Crazy, I remembered, and I grew up in South Carolina, and my father was a big fisherman and a hunter, and so I hunted and fished as a kid. And when my father died in 1999, my mama gave me 2 of his hunting caps. So I have this one.
Oh, wow.
He belonged to the Columbia Sumter Hunting Club, which was in the Congaree Swamp in South Carolina. So we would go hunting and fishing in a swamp in South Carolina. So I have this one, which I always love. But my favorite one is this one, the hunting cap, all right, which doubles as the, oh gosh, I'm not a deer, don't shoot me cap.
That's awesome.
It turns inside out. I love it. So yeah.
See that, folks? You thought you were going to learn about me, and now you learned something about Tommy.
There we go. I got my father's hunting caps, and I can glow in the dark with that one.
That's awesome. I like that.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because when my father passed away, my mother gave me a few things like that, which I think my brothers were not happy about, because I'm the youngest of 5 kids and there were 3 boys. So I got the 2 hunting caps, and I also got my great grandfather's. Or my grandfather's gold pocket watch.
Wow.
Which was awesome. So my brothers aren't watching this, so I don't really care.
That's funny. Salute to your family.
Thanks. Jody Beach, that's a great look for me. You know what? The thing is, you get this, Mojo, because you live in the Bayou country, and you are surrounded by hunters and fishermen.
Right.
I grew up in a family that did that, so I can field dress a deer. I just don't want to. I know how to do it. So people are like, "What? Really?" I'm like, "Yeah, really."
Yeah. Well, I used to fish, but after my aunties passed away, they used to clean all the fish. I really never went again.
I have to admit, I hated cleaning fish. The worst were catfish. I hated skinning catfish. That's just the worst.
Right.
And I can't tell you how many times I got stung by those damn catfish too.
Oh, right. And that's bad. That's
It's
bad.
Yeah.
When I was an adult, I wouldn't, I would go hunting, fishing with my buddy Pancho Poche. Pancho, my poor buddy, he was murdered, and they've never solved the murder. I'm hoping we have a new sheriff starting July 1st. Hopefully his murder will be solved.
Oh.
But Pancho used to pick on me all the time because the deal was if we go fishing, he takes the fish off the hook. Because if I get a hook in my finger and I get an infection, I can't work.
You're done. Yeah.
And he used to love to make fun of me, but it was fun.
Let me tell you what. I mean, when you grow up fishing, you just take it for granted that you're going to get fins stuck in you. You're going to get a hook in your hand.
Right.
Whatever. It's just part of it.
Yeah. And you wind up with parts, and you look and you say, what am I going to do with that? And there's always a little old person who knows exactly how to cook what's left over.
Indeed. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, it's part of my life I'm glad I had, but I'm glad I'm not doing it right now.
Yeah. Well, you were making me realize when we first started, I thought I was going to be on your food and wine show.
Hey, I'm thinking now that I have this technology that why not do a food and wine show on my own?
Oh yeah.
But I do have a question that came from the field, and I think this is a really important one from our friend Mary Stewart.
Mary would like to know about my charity work. I'll be happy to share that with you. There's even a project on my Facebook right now. We're raising money. Oh, let's see. I hope he's not watching because it's supposed to be a surprise. We're raising money to buy Alec, the spokes kid for Shriners Hospital, a new sports wheelchair. So that's my current project, and we're almost there. We'll probably be there in another week or two. But I've always done charity. I was raised in a household that believed that faith, hope, and charity were the things that really kept our family going. Hang on a second. You think about it, faith can be achieved, hope can be fulfilled, but charity is a never-ending need. And that's how I was raised. My mom and daddy were very charitable people. And as a result, charity has been a way of life all of my life. my daddy, when he came back from World War II, there was a young boy in the neighborhood who, in those days, we said they were crippled. And it was a crippled boy. He would tell the story. There was a crippled boy in the neighborhood, and I wanted to help him. He was young, and he needed help. And he discovered Shriners Hospitals for Children in 1946, I think it was, 47 maybe. And they did so much for that child, he decided he wanted to be a Shriner too. So he became a Mason so that he could become a Shriner. And I followed in his footsteps. And as a Mason and a Shriner, I'm able to do charity all over the world. We do amazing things, but in America in particular, what's been very dear to my heart is Shriners Hospitals for Children, taking care of those kids. We started Special Bikes for Special Kids, which is a charitable event that my Masonic brother Hot Dog, his name is Hot Dog. He in Chicago, a lot of people are in Chicago watching this show. Jimmy's Red Hots, Jimmy's Hot Dogs on the northwest side is owned by Hot Dog.
Okay.
So it's the oldest hot dog stand in one location in the city of Chicago. So he and I decided we would create this charity called Special Bikes for Special Kids. And we did it for 3 years. We raised a lot of money, got started buying these adaptive bikes. And little Alec, the first kid who won a bike, is now the spokes kid for Shriners Hospitals. So it comes full circle. Here we are all these years later. Now I'm helping to buy a special sports wheelchair for Alec, who just turned 18, is going to go to Northwestern University in the fall. And they don't have a wheelchair program there, so he's going to start it. He's going to be the first one in that chair. So if you'd like to contribute and participate in righteous acts, just go on my Facebook page. I don't get to call myself Mojo, my real name, on Facebook, because Facebook told me that's not my real name. So I tried a bunch of different names, and I tried Mo Joseph for Mojo. They said, that's your real name. So the fake name Mo Joseph is my real name on Facebook, because Facebook said that's my real name, and that my real name is a fake name, so I can't use that.
So I'm going to try to find it and put it up on a quick banner for you.
Please.
So it'll take a second to pull it up. So I know there's, I remember I was driving south. I live just a couple of blocks off of Oak Park Avenue, and I was driving from way in the north of Chicago and took Oak Park all the way down, and I passed, I think, a Shriners Hospital.
Yes, you did.
Up there. And I remember thinking, hey, I bet Mojo has been to this hospital before.
1,000,000 times. We've done so many performances there. This year, July 17th, I think it is, that we were supposed to be there. It's been postponed. But I fly in with my band every year to go to that Shriners Hospital in Chicago and perform at their annual picnic. It's called Hot Dogs Annual Picnic for the kids at Shriners Hospital.
All right, so I think I found it. It's Red Hot Mojo, right?
What is?
Your Facebook page.
Yes. Yes, you did find the information on the charity to buy.
Yeah, I've got it pulled up in another browser. Let me find it.
So while he's looking for that, I can't tell you, people always ask me if I enjoyed myself. I grew up to be who I wanted to be, and you can't do much better than that. My mentor in life was Wolfman Jack in the music business. He was extended family. He was Uncle Bob to me when I was a kid. And he just encouraged me through my whole career, taught me amazing things over time. And the last time I talked to him was 6 weeks before he passed away. I called his sister's house, and he answered the phone. And we talked for about 45 minutes. And at the end, he said, I'm really proud of you. All your life, you wanted to do what you're doing, and you're doing it. And if you do what you enjoy, you'll never work. He said, and you're way ahead of 99% of the rest of the world. He said, I'm proud of you, just like that. And that was the last thing he said to me.
Oh,
yeah. So it was really a blessing.
I'm trying to find it on your page. I know it's probably here, and I probably passed it. But if people go to that page, they should be able to find something.
Yeah, I'm pretty easy to find on Facebook, and you'll see what we're doing for Alec. We're almost there. We got about 2,400. We need to get to 3,900, and we got $1,000 in private donations that are not on there. Do what you love. That's right.
Oh, there we go. This is a long post here, but one of my staff members who's helping out found this. So if you guys are in the chat, you can go to the Facebook feed. This is coming right out of the Facebook feed.
Yeah, that's it right there.
Yep. Awesome. So, yeah, so check out the feed.
And if you can help, it'd be wonderful.
Yeah.
Would you know, the folks in the band, people don't realize how long we've been together. The show's 35 years old, but it's only the second generation.
Yeah.
The folks who were with me at Moraine Valley in the Manker Theater, Zydeco T, the rubboard player, she's been with me 30 years. We've stood on stages next to each other for 30 years. My drummer, T. John Moser, he's been with me for 24 years. My bass player has been with me for 19 years. And that amazing fiddler that you saw, he's been with us for 17 years, and he's the newest boy on the block.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, everybody in your band is awesome, but I was particularly impressed with him. I just think he's amazing.
Yeah, he really is, but you don't have to travel with him.
There we go. He lives in Chicago, right?
He lives in Chicago, and he's I think he had a 20-year run at the Goodman Theater in the Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, here's a little note from our friend Jim McDowell.
Big Jim.
Little black hair dye, a gravelier voice, and you could do a good Wolfman.
Well, you know, I'm not spilling the beans. People know this. Wolfman Jack was a character that he created. And his real life persona was absolutely nothing like Wolfman Jack. Back in 1981, we hired a babysitter, and Wolfman Jack was appearing in the city we lived in, and we couldn't go because we had previous commitments. But when we got back, the 16-year-old babysitter said, I said, were there any calls? And she said, yeah, your Uncle Bob called, and I couldn't hear him real well because the music was real loud behind him, but he just wanted you to know he loves you, and he was sorry that he didn't get to see you. And I said, thank you. I said, you know who you talked to? And she said, no. And I said, that was Wolfman Jack. She said, well, he sounds just like you. And I said, well, in real life, yeah, he does.
Yeah.
But then she started screaming and jumping up and down. I just talked to Wolfman Jack. I just talked to Wolfman Jack.
Yeah, I think, so many people don't realize that a lot of those people who have those over-the-top characters, that's what they are. They're characters.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep, it's funny because one of my favorite artists that I've ever worked with is Charo, and she, that persona is a persona. It's not her,
right?
Like when she's just chilling and hanging out with you, she's really, she's not shy, but she really is kind of more reserved and quiet, and is a world-class flamenco guitar artist. And people think of her as this coochie thing from all of those 1970s shows. But it's a character. And as she said in one of her shows, Coochie took me all the way to the bank, but what I really love to do is this. And then she started playing the guitar. I was like,
well, she's brilliant. Absolutely awesome. Brilliant.
Yeah. So what's next for you, Mojo, coming up? I mean, I know right now we're kind of on a little hiatus, but what's in the queue for you?
We're in what I call an extended intermission.
Yes.
We really can't put people in a theater right now. I spoke at a meeting today, a conference in North Carolina. And as I said, our audiences are people. They're not canaries to put in a cave. And our musicians that stand by my side are all people. They're not canaries to put in a cave. So we're not going to experiment with them. We're going to wait till it's safe and then come back and do what we do. And our strategy is to survive until the pandemic is clear and people can gather safely. So we're still here for you. We have lots of digital content for you, and I'm giving it away to theaters. And that we've got a full 2-hour concert, 6-camera shoot that I produced for television. 6 cameras, Grammy sound. In fact, the mastering engineer is Danny Leake, who just passed away. He was Stevie Wonder's front of house engineer for 30 years. And Timothy Powell was our recording engineer. And then, of course, it's all the people you just saw. Yep. And then it was Will It Works Productions put the whole video together for us into a concert. So it's television quality, and I'm giving that to theaters. If they want to stay connected to their audiences, they can stream it.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because I think I can talk to the college about streaming it on our website.
Sure.
On the college website. So
And
I think
monetize it if you can. If you can monetize it and get some donations for the program, it's my way of helping your program stay alive. And
Awesome.
People always ask me. It's been a bane of my career. They always, the agent Robin Klinger.
Yeah, I know Robin pretty well.
New Yorker, and she wanted to learn how to produce showcases, and so I said, "Oh, I'll tell you anything you want to know." And at the end of our working together, she says to me, "I can't believe you told me all that stuff." And I said, "Why not?" Well, I can't believe you told me all that stuff. Why are you so nice? She's a New Yorker. Why are you so nice? And I said, "Robin, look, I'm writing my eulogy every day. Anything in my art that you steal, my art lives forever."
Mm-hmm.
So it's a pretty good investment for me. To be nice.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely, we've got a few people from Moraine Valley who are on the feed tonight commenting. So yeah, I think I would love to. Let's talk about that. We'll email, and tomorrow I'm hosting that webinar for NAPAMA on artist safety tomorrow. So for those of you who don't know, Mojo and I serve together on a board of directors for an organization called NAPAMA, North American Performing Arts Managers and Agents. And we've been doing a lot of webinars. And tomorrow I'm moderating a discussion about artists and what artists need to feel safe coming back on stage again. So it's kind of the first level of discussion. It's sort of a higher level discussion, and then we're going to drill down in future webinars about specific things. But I've got a great panel of people tomorrow. I think it'll be a good discussion.
I know it'll be good. But it's really like the tables have turned, because for years, I always had these discussions. How can we protect our audience from MOJO? Somebody's going to get hurt jumping around. Somebody's going to break an ankle,
Yeah. Oops. Well, different conversation.
Right.
Well, we're coming kind of to the end of our time together tonight, Mojo. So I just want to say thank you again for
always a pleasure. Love it.
For the great film clips too. It was kind of nice to see some performance, and then I'm excited about Swamp Girls.
Yeah, it's a wonderful one, and it's a charity too. All our profits go to support primarily women and children's charities, homes for battered women and children. We've paid for drug care, for drug treatments. We've donated to breast cancer, prostate cancer, you name it. It's really a wonderful group of people.
Awesome. So in a couple of minutes, I'm going to put you backstage for a minute, but stay in the broadcast studio, as it were, and we'll talk a little bit after we end the broadcast.
Okay, and ladies and gentlemen who are on this broadcast, and we've spent an hour together, and as I say at the end of every show, if you had a good time, remember, we are all family now.
Yes, we are. So thank you, Mojo.
Okay,
and
my
next
buddy.
week, we have a mutual friend who's going to be our guest. I have Vicky Quaddy.
Wonderful.
Next week. Vicky is one of the original creators of the Late Night Catechism series. So Mojo, I'm going to put you backstage, and
Bye, y'all.
I'll be back with you in just a couple of minutes.
Thank you.
All right. So thank you, everybody, for joining again tonight. I'm so excited to have people who are still interested in these artist interviews. And as I just said to Mojo, next week, tune back in, because we have Vicky Quaddy with us. Vicky was one of the original creators of the Late Night Catechism show, which just celebrated its 25th anniversary. And of course, there have been many subsequent shows based on The Funny Nun. And once we're back to performing in theaters again, Vicky has some long-running shows at the Royal George Theater in Chicago. So I'm sure she'll be a really fascinating interview. She's led an incredibly fascinating life, and not just the Late Night Catechism, but a whole bunch of other stuff. So thrilled to have that. If you go to our website, you will notice we have everybody scheduled through, I think, towards the end of July. We have some awesome interviews coming up. So please spread the word. We're going to keep it out there on Facebook. And I would appreciate you letting your friends know, sharing this stream with your friends. So thank you, everybody, and stay safe and stay happy.